Blog Talk.
Welcome to PowellMinistries.com, Blog Talk Radio, where we are interviewing the Holiness Movement. This is James Powell, your host.
God we still trust. In God we still trust. Here in America, He's the one we turn to. Every time we go and get rough, He is the source of our strength.
Good afternoon. This is PowellMinistries.com, Blog Talk Radio. It is March 8, 2011. We would like to welcome you today to our show and let you know that we are going to have an interview today. And we do have Reverend Jay Slagenwhite on the phone with us. But we would like to just say a big thank you. Last week we interviewed Reverend Dave Fulton. We thank him for taking time to talk with us. We'd like to remind you, if you would like to sponsor our show, you can go to PowellMinistries.com and on the upper right-hand corner, click Donate. Each show costs right around $10 to sponsor. Your company or your name will be mentioned throughout the show. And if you would like to receive our newsletter, you can go to our home page, enter your email, and you will receive our monthly newsletter. We do have a link in our next upcoming newsletter of a audio sermon from Reverend William Gale from back in 1985, but you have to sign up for our newsletter to get that. But we do invite you to do that, and we would also like you to know that we are going to be changing to bi-weekly shows. We will be at Hope Sound Bible College Welcome Week this next week, so we hope to see you there. And we also want to remind you that we are running a survey on our home page, PowellMinistries.com. You can go down to the lower left-hand corner. The question is the Holiness Movement progressing or regressing? And we've been getting some response from that. But that's enough of that. Today, we do have an interview today. We adjusted things here real quick, and we have a good friend of ours online with us, Reverend Jay Slagenwhite. And we have known him for a number of years, traveled many miles with him. And Jay, I guess I should say Reverend Slagenwhite, if you would introduce yourself and maybe tell us about what is going on in your life and where you're at, and just kind of introduce yourself to us.
Sure. Hey, James. Thanks for having me on the show. My name is Jonathan Slagenwhite. Everybody knows me as Pastor Jay. Please, James, just call me Pastor Jay. If you have to use the title before, James and I go back a long ways, and so please, James, just use Jay. I'm the youth pastor here at Hope Sound Bible Church. I've been here just short of 4 years. My wife and I, Tanya, got married in 2006. We have two lovely little boys. Tyler is going on 3 years old, and our youngest, Zachary, is 7 months old, soon will be 8 months old. And have enjoyed the past 3.5 years here as the youth pastor, and so it seems like it's not been that long ago, but it seems like it's been so long ago, James, since you and I shared a van headed to Louisiana or Alabama or some of those far-flung places to work our skills and master our skills of preaching together. So, but it's good to be with you today.
Hey, we truly appreciate you taking the time out to allow us to interview you. As I keep thinking of the different ones interviewing, my goal is to find out the different struggles that we who are pastoring or ministering in the Holiness Movement kind of find out what we are up against, finding out what others are struggling with. Sometimes we can feel like we're all alone and think everyone else has it great. and we need to realize that, each of us are facing struggles. I'd like to ask you a few questions, if you could, with you dealing with mainly youth from our movement, which I know Hope Sound Bible Church does have some bus ministry, but if I'm correct on this, you're mainly dealing more with the youth from our movement. Jay, what would be the top 3 struggles that you see the youth from our movement facing?
Oh, you're right. In a lot of what we deal with, or those that we deal with here, are primarily church people. We have seen some increases, some kids coming that are a part of the Hope Sound Christian Academy, that are not necessarily a part of our church. Probably the three top struggles. One, I would say, would be music, and that would probably be very close to the top. Music is one of the biggest, probably the biggest influencers of our kids today, and that's one of the biggest struggles that I would say that our kids are facing. 2 would be peer pressure, and this is true with pretty much any young person. Peer pressure is powerful at this stage. The direction their friends are going, what's happening in their peer groups often affects them. And the 3rd would primarily just be culture in and of itself. The direction that culture is taking, oftentimes, and you see the trend for years, where culture goes, the church in some respects tends to follow. Maybe not to the fullest extent, but there seems to be, a following in that direction. And so those 3 things would probably, music, peer pressure, and modern culture, pop culture, are probably 3 of the biggest struggles that we face. Okay.
And I would say that sometimes they probably work hand in hand with each other. I mean, they're kind of, each of them can be connected to the other at times. All right. With dealing with the youth, would you have maybe a couple suggestions of ways that parents can help as their young person faces the struggles that they face? I know that we can't answer all the questions, but maybe some suggestions for some parents of the young people you've worked with, and you've heard the young people what they say. I wish Mom and Dad could help me with this or that. Would you have any ways that parents could help?
Oh, that's a good question. There are several things. One, a part of pop culture today, of course, and I mentioned it in one of the struggles that teens face is music. And one of the ways in which culture has radically impacted music has been through, you go back to a lot of parents have been used to cassette tapes. Some of them have been used to records, the big vinyl records. Go a little farther back, maybe, and you've got the 8 tracks. And there's more of a way of being able to follow music and what was, what their kids were listening to. But you come into the 2000s and you've got Apple, who came out with their iPod. Now MP3 players are a big thing, and CDs, which would have been the latest craze when I was a teenager, they're starting to fade away, and you're having more music that's being downloaded from the internet straight onto iPods. Kids are carrying around thousands of songs in their pocket, and parents have no idea what their kids are listening to. One of the things that is, I think, is essential for parents is being involved with their kids in a personal level. The time factor that parents spend with their kids is essential. We did a survey, probably 3 years ago. I think it was soon after I started here. Where are kids spending their time? And I'm going to use some rough statistics, but I think our kids said they average spending 11 hours a week listening to music. They spend 6 or 7 hours a week with friends. All of these various forms of media, 4 or 5 hours a week on the Internet. And whenever it came down to meaningful conversation with parents, they averaged spending 2 hours a week. That was between 1 and 2 hours a week in meaningful conversation with their parents. Or maybe it might have been a little over 2 hours a week. But you're talking about kids that spend a large portion of their time using forms of media or involvement with friends at school, out of school, and very little time in meaningful conversation with parents. The other thing that was interesting is that in that survey was that parents rate very high in the decision-making process of their teens. And so one of the key factors for me is if parents want to deal or help their teens face their struggles, it's the time factor. Being involved in their kids' lives, arranging their schedule in such a manner that they can have the time to be able to talk with their kids, that they have a good relationship with their parents. You'll find this with any kind of relationship. If you want to have the opportunity to really be able to speak to somebody, you have to have a relationship. And if parents want to have the opportunity to be able to mentor their teens and really be able to lead their teens, they've got to have a relationship. Relationships are not formed by buying them things or it doesn't happen by accident. You have to work at that. And part of working in that is going to take the time. So probably the thing that I would say to parents the most is develop a pattern of spending time with your kids that will help to build relationships. And don't be surprised. Don't be surprised when teens go to their youth pastor, a trusted friend in your church for answers. Parents aren't. A lot of times, kids they hear their parents, but they want a second opinion, so to speak. It's like going to the doctor. You hear you have cancer, but they want to hear that from a second doctor. And so, parents developing or helping their kids into healthy relationships with adults in the congregation as well are important, because kids will not just go to their parents, but they will talk to others. And so those two things, developing a good relationship so that you have the opportunity to speak in their life, and then helping them develop good relationships with people in their church. Those two things are going to help in being able to speak to their struggles and for teens to face their struggles.
All right. We got about 15 minutes left, so we're going to have to move on through. The next question I had, probably it kind of ties in with that. So it was basically about how involved are parents in your teens' lives, and you've already referred to that is the area that needs to be worked on. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being bad, 10 being good, where do you think parents typically are in spending time with their teens?
That's going to vary from location to location, as well as cultural setting. Here in Hope Sound, I would probably rate it lower than I would for families in Pennsylvania or Ohio, Indiana. In our setting here, parents work quite a bit. Kids spend quite a bit of time with the academy and their responsibilities there, their activities there. Hope Sound does not lend itself to being a place that's quiet. We have activities that are happening all the time. So I would say here in Hope Sound, and it's going to vary from family to family, but probably on an average, maybe a 3 to a 4.
Okay.
But you go to some settings and you're going to find that higher based on,
Sure.
The settings where they're at.
Right. Okay. Do you have a success story that you'd like to quickly highlight of maybe a youth that you have worked with?
Oh, there's 1, 2, 3. I could probably mention. I'll mention 2 in particular. My first 2 years as a youth pastor, I struggled quite a bit. I had made every intention of being a senior pastor, and it wasn't until a little over a year ago that there's a kid in my youth group that I started to pour some time into. As a teenager, John Manley was my senior pastor, and he spent countless hours to this particular kid, Joel Vion, in my youth group, and that has been one of the most rewarding experiences as a youth pastor, and being able to do that. The other one that I would mention, 2 years ago, I led a team to New York City. We had a kid on that trip named Lance. That at that point he was a student from Taiwan, and honestly, I didn't a lot happen in Lance's life. I kind of viewed it as he's on the trip because his way has been paid. He's encouraged to go, but he's for anything in particular. And this past youth retreat in January, Lance he wasn't in the service at the time, but he told me, he said, Pastor Jay, I just want to let you know that 4 months ago, I asked God to forgive. And ever since that, I've seen in Lance's life a continual growth in his desire to follow God. And so those are 2 things that I would highlight as young people that I've had the opportunity of being able to work with.
Good. That's, I guess, with every ministry, you over a period of time, you at least have some success stories, and that is good. I'm going to combine these next 2 questions together, kind of to speed up. We got a little bit, about 11 minutes left on the show that I have set aside. Along with being in South Florida, I'm asking you about the environment. Does it have an effect on the youth you work with? You can kind of answer that, but as you work with youth, what are some of the dreams that you would like to see from some of our youth in the holiness movement?
Oh, well, the effects, yes, naturally, environment plays a key part. In kids, one of the struggles that we see from that is living in South Florida. You've got a beach that's about a mile away, which naturally does not lend itself to modesty, which naturally creates issues for our young guys. So environment, yes, the environment here definitely does play into that. The other thing, South Florida is an area that lends itself to the trap of money. This area is a wealthy community, and so there's a lot of pressure from the outside saying, conform to this idea of making money. We've got Jupiter Island just across the intercoastal that, countless millions of dollars exist there. So naturally, there, those pressures are there. What would be some of my dreams to see from our youth in the holiness movement? Oh, that's a very good question. Yeah, naturally, the development of spiritual character would be at the very peak. I mentioned this earlier. There's a radical shift in a survey that we did at Youth Challenge this past year. There's a split in our movement over the issue of music. 50% of our young people would say that music is amoral, and 50 of them would say that it's moral. So we have this idea that music is neutral, and so my genre of music, of what I listen to, plays no impact in my life. And because of that, I begin to see this mindset of God's word does not speak to my life as much as what, as a youth pastor, I look at it and I drill into our kids. God's word speaks to every facet of our life, from the music we listen to the way we live, to our attitudes, to what we wear, to everything. And if there's anything that I would love to see in the movement is a refreshing to turning to God's word and implementing God's word in every part of our life. That would be one of my greatest dreams, is to see that happen. That our kids turn to the word for their source of everything. It governs the music they listen to. It governs the movies they watch. It governs how they conduct themselves in their relationships. It makes a difference in their attitude. It makes a difference in how they talk. That would be my goal.
Okay. All right. Well, we have about 7 minutes left. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to switch. We're going to skip the last question about keeping connected to conventions. I think I would say we're probably on the same page. Keeping our youth connected to other retreats and other Christian young people is pretty important. But I'm gonna turn this last portion over to you and just sum it up how you would like to, your closing comments, maybe a verse, whatever. Sum all this up of how you would maybe continue on with the dream of what you have, maybe where God has you, or maybe He's however He's leading in your life.
Sure. I think being a youth pastor, I remember the day that I was invited to stay here at Hope Sound and be a youth pastor. In all honesty, my desire was to head out in full-time ministry, to be a senior pastor. My wife and I had been married for about a year, and we had talked, and I kept telling her, honey, I'm going to be a senior pastor. I don't want to be an assistant pastor. I want to be a senior pastor. And youth ministry was not, I really wasn't interested in youth ministry. But in the course of the past 3.5, going on 4 years, it has become a passion and a love of mine. There's nothing like being able to pour your heart into the life of the future of our church. Being able to sit down and talk to them, to share your love for God with them, and to begin to see them bud and blossom. Little things like being able to mentor with some young people, and then to listen to them as you ask them, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What do you want to do with your life? And to hear them say, I want to be a youth pastor. Watching some of our kids leave the youth department, go into college and study to be a missionary. Those are just exciting things to be able to see. And if there's anything that I would love to see accomplished as a youth pastor, is to watch our young people leave the halls of high school, going into college, and God's going to call young people into various aspects. Some are going to serve full-time and as a pastor, as a missionary. Some are going to be teachers. Some of them God may call into the business world. But being able to watch them grow in their relationship with God and then serve God in that capacity to the fullest that they're possibly, or that they're able to, is exciting to see. And so that's some of my passion, some of my vision, is being able to watch this kid fulfill the purpose for which God created them, and then just go for it all out for God and watch him make a difference in the world around them.
Sure. That to me that fires me up, because I remember sitting in class with you, and all of us different times we discussed our, we had the dreams. I mean, we were ready to get out in the ministry, and to see the different ones who have went to school and now we're doing what God has called us to do. And
right.
I mean, that is so neat to see, and it's so easy to get caught up in. I guess we live in a material world, and it's so easy to get caught up in the material things and lose focus of what God has us, what He wants us to do at this particular time in our life. Well, Jay, it has been a privilege to have you on. I thank you again for taking the time to just let me ask you questions, kind of pick your brain a little bit, and I mean, I count you and consider you a really good friend. Maybe next week when we're down at Welcome Week, we'll be able to go out for a meal or something.
I was going to say, we'll catch up, and thanks, James, for the opportunity. It's been a joy to be able to share some of what God's doing here, and trust that it's a blessing to others.
All right. Thank you very much, and you have a great day.
Thanks. You do the same, James.
All right. Thank you. All right, folks. Thank you for tuning in today, and we would like to remind you, if you would like to sponsor a show, go to powministries.com, upper right-hand corner, click Donate. And we do also have a survey that is going on. Go to the lower left-hand corner of powministries.com, fill that survey out, and we'll give you some results of that. We would remind you that if you're going to be at Hope Sound Bible College Welcome Week next week, we hope to see you there, or in the next coming months. Next month we'll be at IHC, but we do appreciate the show today. Jay Slagenwhite coming on, and if you would like to listen to the archives, go to youtube.com/PastorPowell or blogtalkradio.com/PastorPowell. Thank you for tuning in today, and we trust that God will richly bless your life. Thank you.